Hi there, Sagittarius. I'm EllaAradia, and welcome to your January 2026 Psychic Tarot reading. This reading is for my Sagittarius fire signs, where we'll be exploring the overall energies and themes for the month ahead, as well as taking a deeper dive into how these might be playing out for you in your life. This is a general reading, so it's going to resonate a little bit differently for all of you. What I do find, though, is there's always a shared theme that runs through the collective of all of you Sagittarius signs. So take what feels aligned to you and just leave the rest. And before we jump in, a big thank you to all of you who are supporting my channel by liking and subscribing. So if you enjoy this reading and you haven't already done that, please do. It helps the channel out a lot. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and then you get notified when the next videos are up. So Sagittarius, let's jump in. I always like to just tune into the energies first, Sagittarius, before I start pulling cards. Definitely getting this strong feeling of wanting this year to be different from last year. I feel like last year was quite challenging for you, with a lot of shadows, a lot of, let's say, tough soul lessons, challenges, you know, things like that. And really kind of stepping into a new version of yourself this year, and absolutely, you know, wanting it to be different from last year, wanting to be, you know, all that you can be. You know, it's all about, you know, shining your light and, you know, really getting yourself out there, letting yourself be seen. And the importance I feel here around really learning and embodying those soul lessons, you know, learning from the past so that you can move forward in a different way, so that you don't, you know, repeat the same cycles or go down the same roads again. And a really, you know, strong desire to, you know, really make this a fantastic year for yourself. And very different from the last one. I feel like there might be a little something from the past that, you know, you might still need to make peace on here. Some of you may have found yourselves recently single, and it might be to just be in that for a while, because, you know, there is this invitation that I'm feeling here around, you know, discovering more of yourself somehow and really embodying those soul lessons so that you grow and evolve from that, which is all these energies I'm seeing around, you know, stepping into this new version of yourself, showing up very differently. So with your overall energies, we have the World. So the ending of one chapter, the beginning of a new one, often, you know, a very significant chapter. As you know, the World is all about cycles. It's the last card, you know, in the major arcana. What comes next is the Fool, you know, and the beginning of a whole new chapter. But it's also a card which is what I'm talking about. It's really about learning those soul lessons and growing and evolving and moving in some way to the next level. And sometimes, you know, that upgrade can actually be more about, you know, what's happening inside of you and how you're showing up in the world. So what lies in your recent past, the Queen of Cups. Your current energies, the Seven of Cups. I feel like you have options here, Sagittarius. I feel like there has been, you know, some soul lessons there with the Queen of Cups around looking after your emotional needs. And I do feel in this in relation to a relationship, you know, that could be a friendship perhaps, family member. For many of you, I feel like this is a partner. And, some quite challenging soul lessons there around really taking care of your true, genuine needs. Because the Queen of Cups is all about that emotional mastery and wisdom. And when you look at the card, there is a lid on the top of the card there. And it's also about, she has all this love to give and to share, but it's also about having discernment on that and knowing, when to take the lid off that cup, who to share that with, how much. And I do feel some strong soul lessons around that. So that you may have been in some kind of dynamic where, you didn't feel emotionally supported, or your needs weren't met in some way. And whoever that's related to, I do feel like they were playing a role perhaps in a soul lesson for you, because, sometimes people come into our lives to teach us, particularly when it's a soulmate connection. They come into our lives to help us learn lessons. And a lot of the time, we do tend to be learning things in quite negative or dualistic ways. And it's a vibration, which is, it's an energy pattern that's vibrating in your energy. And people tend to, respond to that. We can obligate them to show up in a certain way because on a higher level, we're learning, a very important, valuable soul lesson. So sometimes, with these soulmate connections, we're teaching each other things. And that's what this Queen of Cups is all about. Looking after your needs and, being perhaps a little bit more discerning, making sure that you're getting your needs met, and, being a bit more discerning about, who you share your love with and how much. And I do feel many of you are recently single, especially with the Seven of Cups. This is a card that's saying you've got options. So yeah, lots of options by the looks of it. And I just get this energy, a little bit like the figure on the card here of someone who's kind of looking at all these different options and trying to work out, each cup has something different in it, trying to work out, which one do you feel drawn to, which one feels right for you. So it's definitely a card of potential, possibility, and, looking at options and possibilities. And the thing also with this card as well, like particularly in terms of love, at some point, one of those potentials does need to manifest. Otherwise, they just remain potentials and they just remain kind of dreams, which, can be a bit illusionary sometimes. That's what the cloud, represents, sometimes our judgment being clouded, and clouded by perhaps illusions sometimes. So moving forwards, make sure that, you are seeing the whole picture here. You're seeing a clear picture. But I feel more it's about these different options, your feelings towards your situation, strength. Because I do feel a little bit of sadness about the past. I felt that right at the beginning. There may have been a connection that broke down, or someone that you felt you had to, move on from for some reason. And perhaps for some of you being, single, it feels like this might have been quite long-term for some of you. And so, it's quite a readjustment to become single again. And it may have brought up, some fears and insecurities here with the Strength card. But this is all about facing those fears and insecurities and, doing that work and healing from, what has occurred, what has gone down in the past. And that's what I was feeling at the beginning, learning from the past, learning those lessons, taking the wisdom from those lessons moving forwards. And just knowing that you have the courage to do that, especially for those of you that have recently found yourselves single, just trust that. Often when we have these periods when we are on our own, I think it's the universe wanting us to, do a little bit of work on ourselves. And so trust in that, because moving forwards, that's going to be important for you in terms of attracting the kind of person that you really want here. What lies in your challenge is the Lovers, a choice. And this is where I feel a conflict. I feel like there is somebody in the past that there's still a little bit of a connection to, it may have been a long-term connection, so there's still these kind of attachments. It's familiar. There's something that feels kind of safe and familiar about it. But I also see somebody new coming into your life as well, or the potential of that. So for some of you, you may be at a choice point here. And there may be a significant choice to be made. Do you continue moving forwards as you are? Or is there still something unfinished from the past here? And, with the Lovers being in the challenge, there might be a little bit of difficulty right now in getting in touch with perhaps your truth on this, the truth of the situation. Really connecting to what your heart's saying, especially with, this Seven of Cups here, and all the clouds, that are around those cups, and a caution, like I mentioned earlier, to make sure you're seeing the full picture here. Make sure you're seeing the truth and not just, being attached to a potential or what you thought that could be, being more attached to the dream than the actual reality of something. What lies in your hidden influence is the Eight of Cups. Moving on, some kind of departure. This often represents an emotional departure. And in the hidden influence, I feel that's the universe coming in and creating some kind of diversion for you to bring in an invitation of perhaps walking a different path, Sagittarius, because this is all about, moving on from somebody that, wasn't, fulfilling for you emotionally. And, that ties into these soul lessons here with the Queen of Cups, of looking after your emotional needs, having your emotional needs met. It's so important in relationships. And with your advice from the universe, the Three of Wands, using this strength here to be brave and move out of your comfort zone, but doing that with the energy of knowing that you are growing, you are evolving, and making a choice which, does move you into a better place, in yourself, in life, however that's manifesting for you. And in the outcome, the Two of Pentacles, a choice to be made, a choice in love, I feel, with the Lovers here. And with the Two of Pentacles, the invitation again, I feel here, Sagittarius, is taking a pause, taking a step back, because this is a card of, you know, getting your priorities in order, really working out what is truly important to you. What do you really want moving forwards? So take a step back and really try and get in touch with your heart in this situation and look at your situation with the whole picture, the truth of the situation. You know, don't get caught up in illusions. Be really honest with yourself and really work out, you know, where your priorities lie, what is, you know, truly important to you moving forwards. And that is what I feel, you know, it's about basing your decision on. So I'm going to leave it there, Sagittarius. If this reading resonated, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, no matter what comes through in a reading, moving forwards, always trust what feels right for you. So thanks so much for being here, and I wish you a great month ahead.